all of these little details sprinkled throughout the story. I can't really explain it. Well, I can explain it. I'll just see how it goes. If I'm in the flow, I'm in the flow, and if I'm not, I'm not. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Britt, and I thought for this video I would talk you through how it's going with my 2023 reading goals, as well as show you the few books that I finished in January. Because if you've seen one of my most recent videos, I talked about some of my goals for the new year. One of them being reading 15 minutes every day, or trying to read 15 minutes every day, as well as trying to finish books that I'm currently reading. And this month, for the month of January, I have been using this really fun reading tracking app called Besmo to track my reading and to see, you know, if I can create more of a habit out of reading every single day. This video is actually in collaboration with Besmo as well, so thank you so much, Besmo, for working with me on this video. So I thought I would just grab my phone and walk you through the cool features that you have in this app that can help you, you know, create more of a habit out of reading. So let me just scroll through the app. What is really fun is you can create collections of books that you have read, books that you're currently reading, books that I finished in 2022, books that I finished in 2023, favorites. But the most important thing right now is showing you the statistics and the goals for 2023 for January. Let's go to stats. In January, I have read a grand total of 23 days, which means that I have not read every single day. However, it says I'm crushing it. I have 47 more books to go for reaching my reading goal for this year, which is 50 books. And if we scroll down, we see my reading time. If I read 116 more minutes, I would have been in the top 1% of the Besmo readers. And in total, I'd read 14 hours and 11 minutes. And if you go to the pages, there is this one day that's just going completely crazy because that was kind of a picture book. So I read so many pages in a single day that the graph is just like, girl, what's happening? You can also, for example, start a reading session, and whilst reading you can add notes, you can add voice prompts, you can create quotes, so you can really keep track of what you're reading so you don't forget anything. And to help you remember, you can also set timers in the apps, so you get a little message every day like, hey, do you want to read today? To, you know, stick to your reading goals. And even though I didn't do it every single day, I'm still very happy with the amount of days that I actually read. If you want to try it Besmo, definitely check out the link in my description. I will leave a link to the app and you can just download it, check it out for yourself, see if it's something for you, and I'm sure it will help you with keeping track of all of your books and all of your reading in this really fun app on your phone. Thanks again so much, Besmo, for working with me on this video. But now let's take a look at the 3 books that I read in January. The first one, which is also my favorite book that I read this month, is A Book of Days written by Patti Smith. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you may know that I absolutely adore Patti Smith. She's one of my favorite writers. Just Kids is one of my favorite books ever, and when I saw that she was releasing a new book, I of course had to get it immediately. This is a really beautiful non-fiction, kind of a picture book with 366 photos that she took using her camera or her phone, or, you know, just any type of device that can create photos. And with each photo, she wrote a little message. It's like on a certain day, for example, the 21st of June, listening to something cool sung by the blonde and silky June Christie, who passed away on the summer solstice. All of these little messages and, you know, stories about different days in her life. And I read this one, I think, in like 2 sittings. The first sitting, I just read a couple of pages, and then the next sitting, which was when I read so many pages, was when I just finished this entire book. And I just loved it. This was the first book I read this year. Immediately a 5-star read. Can you tell I really love Patti Smith? This was a really fun book to add to my collection, and I hope that she will release more non-fiction books because those are my absolute favorites. Okay, then the next book I read this month is called Bad Behavior by Mary Gateskill. This is a collection of short stories that take place in the 1980s New York. And this is a lot about partying and sex and drugs and quite heavy topics sometimes. Some of the characters in these stories, I was quite shocked, you know, by the way that they were living or certain addictions that they had. So it definitely was not a very light read, but it was actually pretty interesting reading about these characters and the way that they're living and the way that they're thinking, and I enjoyed this one. It wasn't amazing. I think I gave it like 3.5 out of 5 stars, but it was definitely an interesting one. And I also bought this book because of the cover. I love books that have photos on the cover like this. Just black and white photos, basically just this entire Penguin Modern Classics these editions. I love them all, and that is why I bought the book. It was really a cover buy, and it was just, yeah, it wasn't necessarily a fun book to read because the topics weren't very fun, but it was an interesting one. Let's keep it at that. Let me know in the comments if anyone of you has read this book, because I've never heard of it before. I've never seen it around anywhere on BookTube, so I'm pretty interested to see if anyone else has read this. And then the last book I finished this month, like, it wasn't my best reading month of the year, or like of the year has just started. It wasn't my best reading month ever because I was in a little bit of a reading slump, but I think that February will be better. But the third and final book that I read in January is The Thursday Murder Club, written by Britt Alsemgeest. This is a very fun mystery thriller, like a murder mystery, which takes place at this old people home, like a retirement home, where 4 of the people that live there, they create a little club called the Thursday Murder Club, in which they try to solve unsolved murders from the local police office. However, one day an actual murder takes place on the premises where they live, so focus on this actual murder. And at the beginning it was actually really fun, like there was a lot of humor in there as well. I really liked the characters, and then towards the middle and end of the book it was a little bit slow. Murder mysteries just aren't really my cup of tea, and that is why I was struggling a little bit in the middle of this book. But in the end, it was actually quite a fun one. I definitely understand that it is a very popular one. I believe it has like 4 books in a series. I don't know if I'm going to read the rest of them, but I'm glad that I finally read another book that is a little bit out of my usual type of books that I tend to gravitate towards. So yeah, it was definitely a fun one, and I'm always impressed by how writers, even though I don't read many, but I'm still impressed by how writers are able to create and write this entire murder mystery, you know, all of these little details sprinkled throughout the story that if you read it for the first time you may never really pick up on, but then maybe if you were to reread it you see all of these little foreshadowing bits, which I think is really brilliant if writers can do that. So these were the couple of books that I read in January, but I also wanted to show you a few books that I'm currently reading, and even though I'm still, by the time I'm filming this, I'm still filming another video in which I'm trying to finish all the books I'm currently reading, but one of the books was already added to this list because I'm really bad at sticking to my currently reading books, and then I saw new books because I went to Amsterdam together with my friends Leonie from the Book Leo and Sabine from Sabine's Book Nook. We went to the Van Gogh Museum and we did some book shopping, and a friend of mine recommended me this book. He knows that I really like non-fiction books, and he was like, you should read The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. And I was just like, what is this? This sounds really unique. But this is a book about neurological disorders, because this is written by Oliver Sacks and he's a neurologist. And in this book he talks, like, there are little chapters all about different patients of his, and it says in this extraordinary book, Dr. Oliver Sacks recounts the stories of patients struggling to adapt to the world of neurological disorder. Here are people who can no longer recognize everyday objects or those they love, who are stricken with violent tics or shout involuntary obscenities, and yet are also gifted with remarkable artistic or mathematical talents. So these are all real life stories about people who are suffering from a neurological disease, and all of the things that I'm reading about, I've only read like 2 or 3 of the stories, so not all of them yet, but it's just like so fascinating and interesting, and also incredibly tragic, because there are people who, for example, forget everything after a certain year in their lives. So everything, you know, they just don't have memories of certain parts of their lives anymore. And of course the man on the cover as well, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, which I've already read, like, it's incredibly tragic for someone to be suffering from such a disease, but then also the little things that they focus on that really make their life, you know, so beautiful again. And it's a really interesting one, very fascinating, and I just like learning about new things, like completely new things I know nothing about, such as different neurological diseases. So that is why I really, really love these type of non-fiction books that are written in a way that the normal human being who is not a neurologist can still understand what this doctor is talking about. So even though I have not finished this one yet, I'm already recommending it very much. It's super interesting. I also love this cover, by the way. And then the second book that I'm very excited about reading, that I am also finally like properly reading, is one that I started at the end of October of last year. But I'm finally like really into it. It is Betty by Tiffany McDaniel. I feel like I've talked about this book so often already, but right now I'm already telling you, like, read this book. I am actually reading this one on my Kindle right now because I feel like if I'm like struggling to kind of get through a book, because sometimes books are quite dense or pages are very big or font is really small, I get a little bit intimidated by it. I feel like it works better if I read it on my Kindle, and with this book it is because it's just quite a tough read, and sometimes I'm a little bit intimidated by, oh, this chapter, like it's still going and it's not making me feel good. I can't really explain it. Well, I can explain it. The topics in this book are very just painful to read about. So this book is actually about the writer's mother. It was inspired by her mother's life, and this is the writer's mum when she was a kid. So the book is about Betty, who grew up in the 1950s in the United States of America, and she's growing up in a mixed race family, and the things that she's going through in her life, not only with racism and poverty, but also sexual assault, violence, it is incredibly heartbreaking reading this book. Please check out some of the trigger warnings because there are many. It is not a light read. It is full of these really tough topics to read about, but the writing style and just some of these messages in this book are absolutely beautiful, and I just know that this book is going to destroy me in the end because people have already said that they cried so much while reading this book. This almost definitely happened to me as well. I'm a very easy crier when it comes to films. Books, not really, but you know, if people are already saying it, I'm pretty sure that it will happen. But I'm finally like properly reading this one, and not just a couple of pages every week, but like properly reading this one. So I am very close to finishing this. This was a little bit of a rambly video about just books that I'm currently reading, books that I finished, and of course my reading goals for the year. I'm still going to try to read every single day, but I'm not going to get mad at myself for not reading every day, or like, you know, trying to read the 15 minutes every day. We'll just see how it goes. If I'm in the flow, I'm in the flow, and if I'm not, I'm not. I'm just not going to push myself. Okay, thank you for watching. This was a bit of a ramble, but I hope you liked it nevertheless. And if you did, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you want to comment something, but you don't know what to comment, comment a star emoji. I don't know why, just a star emoji. Okay, again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a beautiful day, and I will see you in my next video.